people. We live in an age of man-made crisis. Across the world, war displaces people and causes untold suffering. But after the fighting stops, landmines, IEDs, and other weapons paralyse countries. What Halo does is really very simple. We stop people from being killed. Halo cleared nearly 50,000 mines and IEDs last year. That's 50,000 that won't kill and maim. We create work. Halo employs nearly 7,000 deminers. That's 30,000 people dependent on a living from demining. We restore land for farming and other livelihoods. And we restore confidence in countries devastated by war. I would like to thank the Mines Advisory Group and Norwegian People's Aid. Halo, MAG and MPA are not just colleagues, but friends, powerful humanitarians, better together than apart. Secondly, I thank our trustees, British and American, whose unpaid time and talent are too rarely acknowledged. Thirdly, we cannot succeed without our donors. So I would especially like to thank Priti Patel, Rory Stewart, and the British officials who have made tonight possible. With Britain stand others, notably our most generous supporter, the United States, but also Canada, the Netherlands, Norway, and Ireland, whose ministers join us tonight. But many others, such as the United Nations, the EU, Germany, Japan, Finland, Belgium, Switzerland, New Zealand, and Italy, show what can be done and deserve our thanks. With governments, we need new partnerships, such as the one we've recently agreed with the Italian energy company Eni, or the generous grant from an anonymous American foundation matching all funds for Karabakh and Kosovo. I should also thank numerous other donors, some of whom are with us tonight: the Keras Foundation, the Disney Miller family, the JDK Trust, Julia and Hans Rausing, the Gould Foundation, and the SJS Charitable Trust. Finally, I should like to thank Your Royal Highness. Sir, your mother gave extraordinary impetus in 1997. Your advocacy today lends equal weight in 2017. There are too many countries in the world still in the shadow of bygone wars. Many others live with new conflict and the weapons, such as IEDs, with which they are fought. It is possible to change this. As with smallpox, a mine-free world is not a pipe dream, but a real possibility, but only with the right support. So tonight, as we remember the work of Diana, Princess of Wales, and in the presence of her son, a glimmer of hope is presented to unite government, corporate, and private donors and start the countdown to a mine-free world. I therefore urge you all to join the British government in their generosity, to forge new partnerships, and to walk alongside our brave deminers. Together, we can make 2025 the year the world became mine-free. And with those deminers in mind, please join me in applauding their brave work. Without them, none of this would be possible.
Sorry. I grew. Your Royal Highness, Ministers, Your Excellencies, my Lords, ladies and gentlemen, I am honoured to welcome you here this evening to celebrate an extraordinary achievement and to set a vision for the future. May I echo James's thanks to all those of you who are here, who as private individuals, representatives of governments, organisations, trusts and companies, have been part of the impressive progress that has already been made towards ridding the world of the scourge of landmines. Your Royal Highness, we are deeply grateful for the strength and encouragement you are giving this cause. 2 weeks ago, I was talking to a woman in a village of Qasir just outside Mosul. She spoke of the pain of her neighbours who had recently lost 2 sons to landmines. But despite that, she also talked of her own sense of relief and confidence now that the village had been cleared by MAG teams. The light of hope in her eyes was a joy to see. The Mine-Ban Treaty, signed in Ottawa 20 years ago, represented a collective commitment to eliminate these vicious and cruel weapons once and for all. Diana, Princess of Wales, played a key role in campaigning for the cause, and as we remember her here this evening, we think of the courageous optimism that she showed. We need her same values today. In the past 2 decades, there has been impressive progress towards the goals set in Ottawa. MAG alone has touched the lives of 18 million people. The work has often been difficult and dangerous, and I pay tribute to my colleagues who work every day with a unique combination of bravery and diligence. We are committed to finishing the job. Together, those of us here this evening can make a renewed pledge to ensuring that nobody has to live with the constant fear of a weapon that knows no distinction between those engaged in combat and a child walking to school. We will need generosity, creativity, and tenacity, but we can be sure that our action will lead to immediate improvement in the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. We are delighted to welcome you here this evening. Our vision is a bold and ambitious one, but it can be achieved. So, let us seize the challenge together and make LandmineFree 2025 a reality. Thank you. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce the Right Honourable Priti Patel MP, Secretary of State for International Development.
Your Royal Highness, ladies and gentlemen, good evening to you all. We are here this evening because we recognise that landmines are a global scourge that must be tackled. And there are no boundaries as to who mines hurt and inflict suffering on. These are indiscriminate weapons of war that maim and kill, long after the fighting has stopped. But ultimately, mines hurt the poorest hardest, in the very places where people are already marginalised and excluded. Tonight, we are saying on behalf of the men, women and children around the world who live in places where they fear to tread, more must be done and more will be done. And I've seen these efforts to tackle the threat at first hand. In Afghanistan, more than 5 million people live with the risk of landmines. And earlier this year, I visited the Halo Trust Centre in Kabul, where the great bastion of British expertise to train local people is evident everywhere. Often this includes husband and wife teams to decontaminate land, but also to educate communities about the risk of mines. Words simply cannot pay sufficient tribute to how meticulous, painstaking and amazingly brave they are in carrying out this inherently risky work. And I was deeply moved to meet those men and women from communities that have been devastated by decades of war and conflict. Even now the fighting has stopped, the land around them remains a death trap, and parents live in constant terror for their children. They dread their child being killed or suffering a life-changing injury because, of course, in these very poor communities, people who are disabled or psychologically harmed by landmines simply cannot access the kind of support they need or even contemplate what their future might hold. And in the end, it's not just the terrible fatalities, the immobilising injuries that landmines cause, it's also the destruction of opportunity and hope that has scarred so many families. But it doesn't have to be like this. And global Britain has a historic role in tackling the indiscriminate and lethal legacy of landmines. That role, of course, was embodied by the effort of His Royal Highness's late mother, Diana, Princess of Wales. 20 years ago, she brought landmines to the world's attention through her courageous walk through an Angolan minefield. And in direct response, the world came together to sign the Mine Ban Treaty, now one of the world's most widely accepted treaties, with 162 countries that have joined it. The UK was one of the founding signatories to this treaty, and since then we have become one of the world's leading donors to mine action. In the last 3 years alone, the UK, working with partners such as HALO and the Mines Advisory Group, has cleared land from mines the equivalent of over 4,500 football pitches. And it's fair to say, ladies and gentlemen, that these achievements would not have happened without the late Princess's global advocacy on this highly neglected issue. But 20 years on from the historic Ottawa Treaty, the world faces another landmine emergency. Mines are once again being used as a weapon of war in places such as Syria and Yemen. And in 2015 alone, almost 5,000 people were injured, and over 1,600 were killed by mines and other explosive devices that were left behind in conflict, and that includes hundreds of children. This is more casualties than we have seen for a decade, and this is partly down to Daesh, who are using cynical mines as a way in which to target civilians. We cannot and will not accept this, and we have a moral duty to act, and it's in our national interest to act. Britain is committed to shining a light once again on the human side of the damages of these devices and adding a voice of hope to those that have been wounded and physically and mentally broken by conflict and mines. So this evening, I can announce that the UK will triple our funding for mine action to £100 million over the next 3 years. This will allow us to clear This will allow us to clear 150 square kilometres of contaminated land and work in countries such as Afghanistan, Somalia, South Sudan and Cambodia, helping to deliver real and lasting peace and stability in these places. And by doing so, we will honour those who have come before us and provide hope to future generations. It is for causes like this that we have made our commitment to the overseas aid budget. This is one of the many ways in which UK aid can and is making the world safer, healthier and more prosperous for us all. It is my sincere hope that by working together, we can. I'm in no doubt that where Britain leads, others should follow. And through the enduring support of UK aid, we will bring hope to so many in places where there has been despair and ensure that millions more people can go about their lives no longer fearing to tread. Thank you.
Secretary of State, we are honoured and delighted with the generosity that the British government has shown, and we know that it will have an immediate and lasting impact on thousands of people's lives. Thank you for showing such an example. I am now privileged to... Okay.